Story times are not easy for me to do though. Okay. See if I can do this. See if I can do this. See if I can do this. Hey everyone, my name is Ericaaprilxoxox. Welcome back to my channel. And in today's video, we are going to be doing a story time. So in this story time, I'm going to be talking about a female that I met, and we're gonna call her Birdie. Okay, so we're gonna change some names around as well. So we're gonna talk about Birdie as well, but we're gonna take a second and not talk about Birdie. We're gonna talk about a different female, and let's talk about this different female. Indeed, this female, we're gonna call this female Bambi. I met Bambi in high school. The year was 2009. I was in a advanced health class. Me and Bambi took health class together. And in that time, our health teacher allowed us to basically do anything we wanted. Like, the most we learned from health was TV series House. That is the most that I ever learned in health class, really. Sometimes he did make us do health things, but sometimes he didn't. Most of the time, he just pretty much let us do whatever he want. So I wasn't really friends with Bambi that closely, but she was my classmate. And Bambi was dating a guy. We're gonna call him Neil. Bambi and Neil were in a higher class level than me. They were graduates before me. So Bambi and Neil were a couple. What happened was they were 18, 19 years old. Bambi and Neil ended up getting pregnant and having Neil Jr. And as far as I'm concerned, Neil and Bambi got married and had Neil Jr. And that was the last I heard from Bambi and Neil. Now, fast forward to 2024, I am driving around my hometown. And as I'm driving around my hometown, I end up seeing a female that is like the same age as I on the side of the road at the bus stop. And this is when I meet Birdie. So Birdie is sitting at the bus stop, and me being as nice as I am, I pull over because I used to ride the bus in the same area, like in the same hometown. So like I know the bus schedules can take a while, and it sucks not having a car and stuff like that. So at the time I did have a license, did have a car and everything like that. And this is where I meet Birdie. And Birdie's sitting at the bus stop. And I pull up next door, and I'm like, hey, are you going anywhere in town? Can I drop you off where you need to go? And she's like, yeah, I need to go to work. Can you drop me off at the casino? Because she works at the casino in my hometown. So I go and drop her off at the casino. And I took her to work. I got her number. I told her, I was like, hey, if you, want to hang out or need a ride home, let me know. Not knowing anything about her at all. So the next time a couple hours later, this is easy for me to pick up a woman like that. A couple hours later, she texts me. She's like, hey, can you give me a ride home? I need a ride home. I was like, yeah, no problem. So I go and I drive and I pick her up, and I was also, you know, toking at the time. It's legal in California, so keep in mind it is allowed to smoke in California. And I go and I pick her up, and I'm kind of stoned out of my mind and smell like ganja. And she's like, I didn't know you smoked weed. I was like, yeah, I smoke weed. And I drive her home. She's like, yeah, I smoke weed as well. So me and her become really good friends. We start talking for a little bit, hanging out. I end up taking her to work anytime she needed a ride to work, because she worked at the casino for like a couple of months. And not even like freaking 2 or 3 weeks into her job, she ends up getting hurt. And the reason she ends up getting hurt was because a big ass pot and pan, like, I guess it was way up high, and we were both short. We're both short, and we were both the same height. I'm 5 foot, and we're the same height. And I guess what happened was, like, a whole bunch of pots and pans fell on her face and caused her to, like, get hurt. So I ended up picking her up from work and taking her to urgent care and sitting there with her as she gets, you know, the butterfly stitches and cleaned up by the urgent care. I end up taking her back home after she gets hurt, and I think she ends up quitting her job 2 weeks later. Keep in mind, it is summer vacation, and I don't know much anything about her. And then I find out a little bit more about her. And as I find out a little bit more about Birdie, I find out that she is now dating Neil and is now Neil's girlfriend. Keep in mind, the last thing I heard about Neil, the last thing I heard about Neil was he was married and had Neil Jr. with Bambi. So I talk with Neil and I talk with Birdie, and Neil Jr. is about 5-6 years old at this time as well. And come to find out, this is their words. This is Birdie's and Neil's word. I don't talk to Bambi. I haven't heard from Bambi. I have no clue what happened with Bambi. I can take estimated guesses. I can take all the assumptions with Bambi. But from the words of Neil and Birdie, mostly Neil himself, he said that Bambi fell out of love with him during the pregnancy and did not want to carry the baby to full term, and stuck around with Neil and Neil Jr. for 6 months of Neil Jr.'s life and then bounced. Sorry, clear my throat. So that is the story that I got from Neil and Birdie, that Bambi kind of lost it and doesn't keep in contact with Neil. Neil had full custody of Neil Jr. and they are like Neil and Neil Jr. got divorced from Bambi. Bambi had no custody, wanted nothing to deal with Neil or Neil Jr. from what I had heard from them. I'm not exactly sure what happened, like I said, there can be, I have assumptions. The assumptions in my head are none of my, like, let's be honest. The assumptions I have were she had postpartum depression. She probably did fall out of love and didn't want to be with Neil anymore. Or, you know, it just kind of happens. Like, there are animals that kind of reject the baby. So, it's something that just kind of happens. So I find that out. Now we're going to go into December of 2014. December of 2014 happens. It's Christmas time. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's because me and Bambi got really close, okay? Not Bambi, sorry, me and Birdie. Sorry, Birdie. Me and Birdie. Me and Birdie got really, really close. Like, really close. And in December of 14, she got a job at a vape shop that was in a town next to my hometown. And the vape shop was very popular. And at this time, I was also going out to bars. And I was doing my own thing sometimes because I liked going out to bars. I was like going out to country music. And I don't know if it was because of that. She also went out to a country bar with her family and her sister and her mother. Like, I started to feel us drift apart because we talked every day. I picked her up basically every single day. She worked at the smoke shop every single day. Like, we hung out every single day. Like, she fell asleep at my house, and I ended up watching because she was always with Neil Jr. Keep that in mind. She was always with Neil Jr. Birdie had Neil Jr. pretty much 24/7. Birdie became Neil's Jr.'s like stepmom. I don't know what happened. I just felt like I was falling apart. Her and I were really close. We smoked ganja every day. We smoked weed every day. She introduced me into, it was her stepson. It's her stepson. She introduced me to a TV show, Gilmore Girls, and I was watching Gilmore Girls with her. And, like, we were really close. And my uncle even was like, you guys are really close. And it was cool because I was like, I have a best friend. We were at each other's houses every day. Smoking weed, making salsa, eating food. She even helped me move from my dad's house into my uncle's house. Like, we were close. And then January comes around. I end up having to register my car in January because out here in California you have to register your car and you have to smog your car. And at the time I didn't listen to my uncle. I shouldn't have gotten it smogged right away, but I took my car to the smog shop to get it smogged before going to get my tags. I should have got my tags before taking it to the smog shop. You know, that piece of paper stating, hey, stuff like that. But me trying to be smart, I ended up taking my car to the smog shop. I also had Neil's car seat in my car because I was taking Birdie to work and taking care of Neil Jr. at the time. But I took my car to the smog shop. Neil Jr.'s car seat is in the back of my car. I take my car to the smog shop. As I take my car to the smog shop, I take it to the smog dealer, and smog guy blows up my head gasket during the smog test. He does, because my car at the time was a stick shift, and he wasn't switching the stick shift at all, and you're supposed to switch the stick shift while, switching in the thing, and the smog guy blew my head gasket in my car to where there was transmission fluid and fluid all over the floor of the smog shop, to where I had no longer had a car. And I broke down crying because I no longer had a car. And I ended up having my car towed back home. I texted Birdie and I was like, hey, my car just blew up. I'm not able to take you to work. I'm so sorry. Birdie didn't respond well to me saying that. She kind of got annoyed and what seemed to be pissed off that she had to find a different way to work now for me. And I was crying. And she ends up finding a different ride to work. She goes to work and she goes basically no contact with me for 4 days. She doesn't return any of my text messages. She didn't answer any of my phone calls. And then I finally go up to her house and I return Neil Jr.'s car seat to her. And I'm like, hey, here's Neil Jr.'s car seat. Do you want to smoke some weed with me? I got some weed. She's like, no, not right now. And I'm like, oh, okay. I go home. I talked to my uncle about it. He's like, she's probably just a little irritated and mad that she has to find a different ride to work for now on. Just give her time. I give her more time. And I reach out to her. And she goes, don't fucking ever contact me again, you bitch. And I'm like, whoa. Okay. What the fuck? Like, I didn't even know how to respond back then. Because it just made me, I was like in so shock and it made me so sad. Because she went no contact with me right after I told her that my car exploded. I cried for a little bit and she just says, don't contact me again, you stupid bitch. So I don't know what exactly happened. I don't know how that happened, what happened. I don't know if she used me for just car rides to work, back and forth to work because I had a car and she didn't have a car and she didn't have a license. I don't know if she was mad at me because she had to find a different ride home anymore. I don't know if she was mad at me because I couldn't watch Neil Jr. anymore, even though I offered to watch Neil Jr. anymore. I don't know exactly what happened. The things that I think I possibly did wrong, because keep in mind, like, we were close. Neil Jr. and would hang out with my nephews. And she and I also had dogs that were roughly hanging out all the time. I think I could have done wrong in that friendship or to her was me not being able to take her to work anymore. Me not eating enough because at the time I wasn't eating enough and I was really, really skinny and like really skinny and wasn't able to keep any weight on because I was dealing with like area cysts down there. And she was upset because, you know, as much as she kept feeding me, I wasn't gaining weight. I don't know if it's because I smoked too much of her weed, even though I returned the weed back when I had weed and gave her a car ride to and from work all the time. Like, that's the only other thing I can think of is, like, I smoked too much weed. The worst case scenarios that I think got in my head was she thought I was attracted to her, maybe? or she thought I was attracted to Neil Sr., not like being attracted to Neil Sr., or if I owed her money for weed. Like, when I reached out to her, she never said why. She never told me why she called me a bitch. She never told me why she never went no contact with me. And then the worst case scenario that I can think of is she probably thought I wanted what she had at the time. Like, that's the only worst case scenario I can think of, is she probably thought I wanted Neil and Neil Jr. in her life, which I did not. Because keep in mind, I was going out to bars. I was meeting people and doing things I was doing at a young age, you know. I think I was in my young 20s. Like, I was going out. So, this is why I don't know what exactly happened. Like, my car exploded. We went no contact. When I reached out and I'm like, hey, what happened? She just called me a bitch. So, I never know exactly what happened or why my friendship ended with Birdie. I don't know if it's because I smoked too much weed or smoked all of her weed, or if she thought I wanted her, or if I wanted her life, or she couldn't use me for rides anymore, or have me watch Neil Jr. and have Neil Jr. play with my nephews. I have no clue. And I still question it to this day, but the one thing I have known is I probably will never get that type of closure. So, I don't know if we used each other. I know I probably, at the time, I was lonely. I didn't have a best friend. I probably did use her as a best friend. Yeah, I probably did use her to cure my loneliness of being alone and not having any female friends. I don't know exactly. She never talked to me about any of it. She didn't take the time out to talk to me about this, but also keep in mind, we were probably in our early 20s. Like, our early 20s. We were smoking weed all the time and hanging out all the time, and I don't know if that was also annoying her as well. So, also keep in mind, I don't think any of these people follow me anymore. I know Birdie does not follow me on any social medias anymore. And the only reason I was able to get timelines was because I still currently follow Birdie. So that's why I was able to find out, like, timelines and dates. So, yeah. But it hurts because I really consider Birdie, like, a really close friend of mine. Like, really close. And I don't know how to explain it. And it's just weird how we went from so close to just don't contact me anymore. Don't anything anymore. That's the thing that will always haunt me to this day. So, I do know that Birdie has a daughter of her own now and is married to Neil. And Neil Jr. loves his little sister. And they seem happy. They moved to a different state, from what I've seen. I need to know your theory. I need to know your theory, because this is going to be... It's going to be fun. Because my uncle even thinks that she just kind of stopped being my friend because I couldn't take her to and from work anymore or watch the kid anymore. So. But that is my story time. Thank you guys all for listening. And thank you all for joining and watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below what you think ended mine and Birdie's friendship. So, let me know. And thank you for watching my story time.